Hello friends, and welcome back to Lemon Tree Corner. If you're new here, hi, my name is Heather and this is a crafty channel where we make bags and crochet and things like that. So welcome, and to all of you coming back, welcome back. It's great to have you back with me under the lemon tree. And I see a lot of new people here, so if you have not subscribed and you have watched more than one of my videos, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel out and helps me grow this channel and get to more people. So thank you very much. This week in the studio, we are talking about pricing, talking about some money, which is a little difficult of a subject. This week in the studio is the last of the craft fair prep. So we are going to be taking out all the bags we've made over the past 6 months and putting on price tags. I'm going to talk to you about how to price handmade products and the soul-searching, sometimes soul-crushing process that is. And we're also going to talk about inventory, how to keep track of things. A lot of times you talk about the creativity of a handmade business, but it is still a business and there are administrative things that have to happen with that business. So just a little insight. We're not going to get too in-depth into that stuff. And then I have to go through and do things like the prize drawing sheets and stuff like that and come up with a plan for, you know, logistical, taking things over to the location and setting up a booth space and all that fun stuff. So we will get deep into that. And then my sister and I are also going to go to the Knitting Tree LA. They have a sit and knit kind of thing on Wednesdays and Sundays. And since it's a 3-day weekend and we've made all the bags for the show, we are going to treat ourselves to participating in that on Sunday and just having some time to be with them. I promised myself I would do that, and then 6 months has gone by and I haven't even been there. So we're going to go do that and hang out with those folks and reconnect with them. Oh, and I wanted to share with you, we finally found a good project for our lavender yarn. So this is the one that worked for me, is the Heathered Eyelet Wrap by Fiberflux. And it's looking really good so far. You'll see I've already transitioned into the second color. It's just kind of a nice subtle wrap, and I think it works well with that pattern. So yay, I'm happy to be working on it. Yeah, I've tried 2 different projects and had to pull them apart with that yarn, so the yarn is getting kind of unwoven at this point and lots of pieces flying around. So it's one of those projects, I don't know if you've worked with a yarn like that kind of gets up your nose and little particles everywhere, but that's what I'm dealing with. So I'm hoping once I get into maybe the 3rd color, the yarn that I haven't really worked with, it'll tone down a little bit. But that's about it. So yeah, just trying to keep myself busy this week, get all my ducks in a row before the show. And then next week we will take you along for the show as well. So if that sounds fun to you, go ahead and grab a water or a cozy beverage, curl up, and let's get to some pricing. Okay, pricing. This is like the hardest part of running a handmade business, is trying to figure out your pricing, because it just brings up existential crisis, right? Of how much am I worth? And I'm making these things and I enjoy making them, but the supplies all cost money and I have to charge a price that makes it sustainable for me to run it as a business rather than a hobby. So there's like 3 kinds of crafters out there, right? There's the people who are like, I make really high-end stuff, I'm charging hundreds of dollars, and if you don't like it, you can leave, right? I wish I was that person. And then you have the person on the other end of the spectrum who's like, oh, it's just a hobby, I just do this for fun, so I'm really just going to charge enough to cover the cost of my supplies. Now that person, while they think they're being nice, is really dragging down the price of the products for everybody else. Because if you're pricing your products too low, you're kind of screwing everybody else there. You know what I mean? Everybody else in that handmade space. So it's a real battle. I fall in the middle. I want to charge a reasonable price that I am my ideal customer, how much would I pay for something like this, but I also want to recoup my supplies and my time. So it's really just, it's an internal battle of how much you're worth is what it comes down to. So I try and go about it very strategically. So I have a list that I put together of average costs of all of the supplies that I use. The difference comes with fabric as far as if it's a designer fabric, if it's Joann's. I can really drive down my costs by going to Joann's when they're having 50% off of fabric. So I'm getting fabric for like $5.99 a yard instead of like the designer fabric is sometimes $12.99 a yard. So that's a big difference that helps me be sustainable. Joann's also has the interfacing on sale for 50 to 40% off. So if I time things correctly, I can really drive those costs down. Same thing with the hardware and the zippers. If I can do a bulk order or wait for a sale. So it's all about timing when it comes to getting your supplies for cheaper. So I like to do that. We've also got these sheets that I do. I do kind of a half sheet once I'm done making the bag. And what I do is I have the supply costs, the fabric costs, my time, and I'm really only doing 20 hours, $20 an hour is what I'm averaging for that. And even then, it would be $150 for me to make this bag because it took me 7.5 hours to make this bag. And obviously, I'm not going to charge that. That doesn't even include the supplies, which cost $54. So, it would cost $204 for me to like actually pay myself a living wage to make the bag. But that's like impossible, right? I heard somebody once said, you set the price for how much you think it's worth, and somebody will pay that price. Like, don't discount yourself. But I'm also a realist, and I understand that I'm not going to pay $204 for a bag. Like, it's not leather or anything fancy. It's like cotton. You know what I mean? So I have to take that into consideration as well. What will the market bear? So what I do is I go on Etsy or other sites and I look at what other people are charging for a similar bag. So here we had a range from $45, $95, $52. I set my price at $60. So I kind of just look at what other people are charging for this type of bag. And then I look at the supplies and I'm like, okay, well the supplies cost me $54. So charging $60, I gotta charge over $54, right? I'm really not making anything off this bag. I'm just getting my supplies back. But I can take this leftover fabric and make a coin purse or, a makeup pouch or something else. And in that case, the fabric cost is no longer there. So my margin is a little higher for that. So I'm getting a little bit more back on those types of bags than the original bag. So I kind of just go through and I'm charging more than it costs me. I have this one, total supplies cost me $38. I'm charging $46 for this bag. So it's really not that big of a margin. Yeah, some of them I'm charging $1 more than the supplies that it cost me to make the bag. Other bags, I'm charging $10 more. Other bags, I'm charging, $15, $20 more. So I hope, my hope is that it all evens out in the wash and that it works out for me because I enjoy making the bags. It is a side business at this point. I would love it to replace my full-time job eventually, but the chances of that are pretty slim as far as the way handmade products go and the way our economy is and how hard it is just to buy groceries at this day and age. So to ask somebody to pay extra money for something that they don't necessarily need, they just want, it's a luxury item. So I realize that, and I don't know how sustainable this is going to be moving forward into my future. But that's why I have the full-time job with benefits. and it gives me the freedom to do these other things with my free time, and I enjoy doing it. So that's the long and the short of pricing. There are lots of books out there I can recommend to. I'll link them in the comments. I'll link them in the description below. The 2 books that I used for running a handmade business goes into a lot of this, creating your own business plan, how to handle the money side of things. Ultimately, I would have a separate bank account for the business stuff. Right now, I don't make enough to make that worth it. I do have a seller's permit, and I do pay tax to the state for the products that I sell. So most of the time online, I'm charging tax and shipping. At a craft fair, I tend not to charge tax, except for this craft fair we're doing this month. It's a policy of the entire organization that we charge tax at the show. So I have to incorporate that in. It also means that I have to handle coins. I have to bring coins with me and charge tax on that. But generally at a craft fair, it's kind of the craft fair discount that I give most of the time, is that I don't charge tax, because it just takes more time to figure out, more time to count out change. So let's go to the computer and let me show you how I organize everything, and then we're gonna just bring all the bags out and start putting some price tags on, and I'll talk a little bit more about online versus craft fair. They're 2 completely different animals. I don't think you should ignore one of them completely. I think they both have their merits, and we'll go over some of that too. Okay, so here's what I do. I have an inventory list for each year where I have all the bags I'm selling. Anything that's posted on my website, it automatically gives me a SKU number, so I put that in there. And I basically just have the pattern, the product name, if there's more than one of them, what type of bag it is, what the bag dimensions are, the fabrics I used, and this is really just for me, the bag price, and then the date I posted it in the shop. So a lot of these are not in the shop right now. These are all bags that I've made since the shop, and I've not put them in there because we're taking all these to the craft fair, and I would like to have them at the craft fair first before worrying about the online stuff. So here are all the coin purses we just added. So I just have a record of everything I've done, and a name for them. And then here are all the sold items. So we've got, you know, this was the spring fair, the items that I sold, and then we also have online. I will put in, I don't want to show you anybody's information. I will put in the customer email, the address, the date I mailed it, the actual shipping cost, because what I charge on the website is kind of like a flat fee based on the weight of the item. So it might cost me more to mail it. It might cost me less to mail it. It's just kind of a toss-up depending on where the person lives and everything. And then I put in the tracking number. So if I send it USPS, I get a tracking number. I also put that tracking number on the website when I tell the person that it's shipped. And yeah, that's basically all I do for that. I've got all the progress keepers are on here and how many of them I have, and I just have to keep track of that kind of thing. Okay, it is time to put the price tags on. So I've got my first bin of projects that we've made. I've got all of my price tags, which I print out on little stickers and put on the back of my square business cards. We've got that. I'm not sure where I'm putting all of these when I'm done. I think I'm probably going to use the table for most of this, but I figured this was a nicer way to talk to you guys. So I basically just use some twine in a color that goes with my brand and put it through my tapestry needle and then stick it through the hole. So here we've got our coin purses first. So the difference between craft fairs and online selling, pros and cons. Let's go with online. Pro is that it's just kind of out there working for you. You're not tied to a specific space or location. So like a physical storefront's going to cost a lot of money to maintain, and you've got to be there all the time. Whereas, you know, an online store, everybody can see the pictures. You can link it to social media, so that's good as well. And, you know, you get an order, you ship it out. So the cons of that are, it still costs money to have a web shop, and to maintain it, you're paying for the transactions. You're also coordinating shipping supplies. So you've got all of that going on as well. Who goes to the website? You have to have a way of getting people to the website in the first place. So that's the other thing that is a struggle. And people can't feel and touch all of your products. So that's another problem. And then you have to, you know, set up international shipping if you want to do international shipping. Whatever you're doing, you have to set all of that up. So those are the cons of that. Also, like, I have my own website because I used to sell on Etsy, and I found that Etsy, not only was there a lot of competition on Etsy, so if you were looking for a purse, you weren't necessarily going to my site. You have to be an Etsy member to make a purchase. So there's that part of it. And there's also that Etsy takes a lot up front. They take money just for you listing the item, whether it even sells or not. You're paying money for that. And they've also let in a lot of people that aren't necessarily handmade. So it's kind of questionable now, the kind of things that they're doing. There's other platforms like Etsy that you can sell on. The thing about Etsy that everybody thinks is, oh, people are going to see my stuff just because I'm on Etsy and they're looking through Etsy. But that's not really how it works. You really have to pay extra money to get your item at the top of the list. So I find that having my own website and getting to control everything, getting to post or take down whatever I want, is just more handy. I also don't have to compete. I can send people directly to the website and have that as part of my arsenal. Now the truth is that not a lot of people are going to my website. So how do you get an audience to go to your website or to find you? And that's these videos, that's at the craft fair, I collect people's email addresses and I send out email information. So if I do put a bunch of stuff on the website, I'll announce that on Instagram and through email. Now craft fairs is a whole other animal. So craft fairs are great because people get to see and touch and feel your product. They get to see the quality of it, they get to see the cute pattern, and it's like an instant, I want that, I'm buying that kind of thing. You're not really thinking about it. You're not paying for shipping. It's just a win-win. Plus, the craft fair exposes you to people who don't even know about you until they get there. So it really makes it a bigger audience for you. And there's other things for them to see. It's kind of like a whole day event. Craft fairs do cost money, so anywhere from $40 to $150 for a booth space. And it's a big outlay commitment of time and energy because just like you've seen for the last 6 months, me making all these bags in preparation for one craft fair, just to have enough for a 2-day craft fair. Probably overkill, but because I'm paying $120 for this particular craft fair, I need to make sure that I make at least $120 to cover that fee. I also have my time and my sister's time of sitting there all day for 2 days to consider. And they're setting up the booth. So luckily for this fair, I can go the night before, I can set everything up. I'm not going to be all sweaty in the morning, you know, rushing around trying to set up the booth before everybody shows up. But most of the time, especially like at an outdoor craft fair, you're setting up the pop-up tent, You don't know what the weather is going to be like. It could be windy, it could be rainy, it could be full sun in your face all day. So there's all of those things to consider. And for me, the biggest thing is I'm an introvert at a craft fair and I'm interacting with people all day. So that's the difficult part for me, is that part of it. And I just suck it up, Buttercup, and get to work, knowing that that's the best place for me to be. And if I want to have a business, I have to be the face of that business. I have to be there and interacting with people and answering questions and welcoming them into my space. So there's that. But there's no guarantee that just because you do a craft fair that people are going to buy the amount of stuff that you need them to buy to cover all of those things. Okay, so here is the sweater so far. I've got my sleeve, but I think I've been adding stitches because this is way fluted. I've got about one more repeat before I'm supposed to be done, but I wanted to make them go all the way down. Now I'm wondering if I should go back, tear it back, and make that a little less fluted. Maybe I should be dropping a stitch every time around. I feel like I'm adding a stitch every time around, because that is not what it's supposed to look like. So I like the length of it, which is nice. So it's just a question of, you know, it looks a little too fluted. Was not expecting this many people. The whole store is filled, and they're adding another table too. So we've got my sister here with the beepy beepy. I'm working on my sweater, but I'm really frustrated with the sleeves. But I think we're just gonna soldier on and call it a day. So I got some new fish for the fish tank. Yay! So these are all mollies. They're different varieties, but I think they all work together. So we got some splotchy ones and some that are like half black, half orange. So they're really cool. They move around a lot more than the tetras that I had. And then here's the catfish. He's really cool and reflective and has leopard dots on him. Hey friends, so that's it for this week. We're all ready to go for the craft fair. In fact, I gave myself a little too much extra time because the anxiety level is starting to ramp up and I don't have anything to focus on. So I think we're going to start on the book nook just to keep my hands occupied. And then we've also got the sweater to hopefully finish. So I'm just going to keep occupied, stay occupied until the craft fair comes. So next week I will take you along with the craft fair. We'll do a couple little self-care things. I got some pumpkin bread to make and things like that, and just kind of decompress, and I'll share with you how we did at the craft fair. And then I need to start taking pictures of everything that's left and putting those up on the web shop. So really, I don't know that we're gonna sew for a while. My sister and I are going to the SoCal Fiber Fair the week after the yarn crawl. The week after the craft fair, so I'll take you along with that as well and share that with you. And yeah, I think that's it. So I don't think we're going to be sewing anything until we get to Vlogmas, But we've got a lot of the business side of things to work on, and then we'll get back into the creative side of things. So I hope that little tour, the contrasting of things and the business side of things, was interesting for you. It was a lot of chit chat this week, so we'll get into some montages probably next week for you. But I hope you had fun, and I hope to see you back here next week. Love you, friends. Bye.